Structure exists before meaning is recognized. Every system shapes how truth appears. Meaning is never outside its structure. What we perceive is already organized. Structure governs both thought and expression. Every relation defines what something is. Systems create order within perception. Meaning is not fixed, only positioned. Structure determines how signs function. Understanding comes from mapping relations. Every system imposes limits on meaning. Meaning is formed through contrast and absence. Structures guide thought silently. Reality is processed through symbolic systems. Systems exist beneath conscious awareness. Meaning shifts when context shifts. Structure is the hidden logic of language. Nothing exists independently of its relations. Every meaning is part of a structured whole. Systems shape perception before judgment. Meaning arises from connections, not isolation. Structure organizes experience into patterns. Every concept depends on difference. Systems determine how meaning flows. Language arranges reality into forms. Structure precedes understanding. Every sign belongs to a relational network. Meaning exists within structured boundaries. Systems stabilize interpretation. Structure is the condition for communication. Meaning depends on arrangement, not substance. Every framework creates its own logic. Systems organize what can be known. Structure connects all elements into meaning. Meaning exists through interaction. Every system defines its own limits. Structure shapes both knowledge and belief. Systems give form to thought. Meaning is constructed within relations. Structure underlies all perception. Every element is defined by its position. Systems shape how meaning is produced. Structure gives consistency to interpretation. Meaning is always contextual. Every sign reflects its place in a system. Systems determine patterns of understanding. Structure exists within every expression. Meaning arises through structured difference. Systems influence perception continuously. To see clearly is to see structure. Structure frames meaning before it is understood. Every system shapes how reality is interpreted. Meaning is produced through relations, not objects. What appears natural is often structured. Systems define what can be expressed. Meaning depends on position within a framework. Structure organizes perception into order. Every sign exists within a network. Systems guide thought beneath awareness. Meaning is never independent of its system. Structure determines how differences create meaning. Every framework carries rules of interpretation. Meaning is relational at every level. Systems define boundaries of understanding. Structure shapes how reality is categorized. Every element gains identity through contrast. Meaning shifts when structural relations shift. Systems stabilize patterns of thought. Structure is the foundation of interpretation. Meaning emerges from structured interaction. Every system imposes order on experience. Structure defines what is visible and invisible. Meaning is constructed within limits. Systems influence perception without awareness. Structure connects all meanings into a whole. Every sign depends on others to exist. Meaning is never isolated. Systems organize knowledge into patterns. Structure shapes both language and thought. Meaning exists within relational boundaries. Every framework determines how truth appears. Structure precedes interpretation. Systems guide how meaning is formed. Meaning is shaped by context and relation. Structure defines the limits of communication. Every sign is part of a structured chain. Systems give coherence to understanding. Meaning evolves within fixed systems. Structure governs how ideas connect. Meaning is always part of a larger pattern. Every system creates its own logic. Structure organizes difference into meaning. Meaning depends on how elements relate. Systems influence what can be thought. Structure defines the rules of perception. Every concept exists through relation. Meaning is shaped by unseen frameworks. Systems guide interpretation continuously. Structure holds meaning together. To understand meaning is to understand structure. Structure defines meaning before awareness begins. Every system shapes how reality is organized. Meaning arises from patterns, not isolated facts. What seems obvious is often constructed. Systems determine what can be understood. Meaning is formed through relational difference. Structure orders perception into coherence. Every sign exists within a structured field. Systems guide thought silently and continuously. Meaning cannot exist outside its framework. Structure creates the conditions for interpretation. Every framework filters what is perceived. Meaning is produced through contrast. Systems define limits of knowledge. Structure shapes how truth is recognized. Every element depends on its relations. Meaning shifts with structural change. Systems stabilize understanding through repetition. Structure is the invisible logic of meaning. Meaning exists within organized relations. Every system constructs its own reality. Structure determines how ideas connect. Meaning is relational, never absolute. Systems shape perception before awareness. Structure organizes the flow of thought. Every sign gains meaning through difference. Meaning depends on structural position. Systems define patterns of interpretation. Structure frames experience into categories. Meaning emerges from interaction. Every framework creates boundaries of thought. Structure connects elements into systems. Meaning is shaped by unseen relations. Systems influence both perception and belief. Structure governs interpretation at every level. Every concept is defined by contrast. Meaning is constructed within systems. Systems organize knowledge into forms. Structure shapes the limits of expression. Meaning depends on context and relation. Every system orders reality into patterns. Structure defines how meaning is formed. Meaning is never independent of structure. Systems guide the interpretation of experience. Structure holds patterns together. Every sign reflects its place in a system. Meaning arises from structured interaction. Systems shape the boundaries of understanding. Structure defines both presence and absence. To understand anything is to see its structure.